38 years old, Seo Joo-Heon is about to die inside a tomb. His body has been torn apart, a giant snake is still coming for him, and the man who sent him here clearly never expected him to return. But Joo-Heon isn't begging to be saved. With what little strength he has left, he makes one promise. If he ever gets another chance, he'll kill Chairman Kwon Tae-jun himself. And somehow, something inside the tomb hears him. A mysterious relic appears, offers Joo-Heon the one thing he desperately wants, and the next time he opens his eyes, his missing legs are back, his wounds are gone, and the calendar says 2025. 15 years before his death. Joo-Heon has no idea why he's been sent back, but he knows exactly what happens next. Relics are coming. And this time, he refuses to be anyone's dog. Deep inside the tomb, Joo-Heon's situation is already beyond saving. The mission he was ordered to complete has fallen apart, and now an enormous snake has him trapped with nowhere left to run. His injuries are so severe that even if the monster suddenly disappeared, walking out of this place wouldn't be possible. Joo-Heon knows that. He knows he's dying. What he can't accept is dying like this, because this wasn't some ordinary mission that went wrong. The man behind it was Kwon Tae-jun. Joo-Heon had spent years carrying out dangerous jobs for him, and somehow all of that loyalty had brought him here, broken, abandoned, and left to die. That's when Joo-Heon suddenly hears a voice. For most people, that would be terrifying. For him, it's different. Joo-Heon has always been able to hear relics, so he immediately assumes some powerful divine object must be hiding nearby. And considering he's seconds away from death, he doesn't bother being polite. If this thing can talk, then it can help. Get rid of the snake and get him out of here. The answer he gets isn't exactly comforting. Even without the snake, Joo-Heon's body is already destroyed. His injuries are too severe, and there's no realistic way he's making it outside alive. The relic almost sounds disappointed. From its perspective, Joo-Heon possesses an unusual amount of talent. He simply lived in the wrong era, spent that talent serving the wrong people, and now he's going to die before ever seeing what he was truly capable of. Joo-Heon couldn't care less about hearing how much potential he's wasted. He's furious. Furious at Kwon. Furious at himself. And more than anything, furious that his entire life is apparently going to end as somebody else's disposable pawn. He refuses to accept it. With his last bit of strength, Joo-Heon swears that somehow, by any means necessary, he'll kill Kwon Tae-jun. That answer catches the relic's interest. Apparently, there might still be some entertainment left in this dying man. So instead of watching his talent disappear, the relic decides to give him a chance. One more opportunity to see whether Joo-Heon can claim the throne of a king. Before he can figure out what that even means, a crow appears. Joo-Heon can immediately tell this thing isn't normal. For a moment, he wonders whether he's looking at a hero-class relic, maybe even something greater. But whatever the crow actually is, Joo-Heon never gets the chance to ask. Because suddenly, everything is gone. When Joo-Heon comes to, the tomb has disappeared. So has the snake. Instead, he's sitting inside a police station while an irritated officer keeps demanding his name. Joo-Heon barely reacts. His attention immediately drops to his legs. They're there, completely intact. No wounds, no missing limbs, no sign that a monster was just tearing him apart. For a few seconds, even Joo-Heon starts wondering whether the whole thing was some unbelievably vivid nightmare. But the memories feel too real. The tomb, the snake, Kwon's betrayal, the crow. He remembers all of it. And while he's trying to make sense of what's happening, someone casually mentions the new year. 2025. Joo-Heon freezes. That number changes everything. Because 2025 wasn't when he died. It was 15 years earlier. Now the crow's words finally make sense. Joo-Heon wasn't simply healed. He's gone back in time. And once the shock wears off, he can't stop himself from smiling. He remembers the future. All 15 years of it. Unfortunately, everyone else in the police station thinks he's lost his mind. An angry woman is already complaining about him while her son sits nearby, and seeing them finally brings another old memory rushing back. Joo-Heon has lived through this day before. The woman's son had started a fight with him. Joo-Heon shoved him away, and the kid conveniently collapsed as though he'd been waiting for exactly that opportunity. His family then demanded an absurd amount of money to settle the case. Back then, Joo-Heon was broke. He had no influence and no real way to fight back, so he ended up humiliating himself, begging them to lower the settlement. He even got down on his knees. Remembering that only makes his expression colder. Because the Joo-Heon sitting here now isn't the same helpless kid. When the mother starts screaming again, he finally speaks up. Her son started the fight, and the amount they're asking for is ridiculous. Naturally, the spoiled kid doesn't appreciate being called out. He tries going after Joo-Heon again. That turns out to be an even bigger mistake. Joo-Heon's body may have returned 15 years into the past, but his combat experience apparently came with him. The moment the kid attacks, Joo-Heon reacts almost automatically. He's faster than he remembers, lighter too. The difference is so noticeable that even Joo-Heon becomes curious, and then he realizes why. His younger body hasn't developed Relic syndrome yet. He still has the technique and instincts built over 15 brutal years, except now he's using them with a healthier body. That's one hell of a second chance. The police manage to stop things before the situation gets even worse, while the boy's mother continues threatening Joo-Heon with charges. But at this point, he isn't particularly worried, because he knows what's coming. Soon, arguments inside a police station are going to feel incredibly small. In 2025, massive earthquakes begin appearing around the world, and along with those disasters comes something humanity has never seen before: tombs. Inside them are relics connected to myths, legends, folktales, and stories that have survived through generations. And somehow, those stories carry real power. People who obtain certain relics gain supernatural abilities, which naturally causes the entire world to become obsessed with them. Everyone wants one. Governments, corporations, collectors, anyone who understands what these objects can do starts fighting to possess as many as possible. Joo-Heon's own life changed because of one. He eventually discovered the archaeologist's relic, an artifact that gave him valuable knowledge about tombs and the objects hidden inside them. At the time, he thought he'd finally escaped his miserable life. He had something rare, something valuable, something that could finally make him successful. But powerful people had the same idea. Before long, corporations began claiming excavation rights and locking ordinary people out of valuable tombs. TKBM became one of the biggest players, and standing at the center of it was Chairman Kwon. Joo-Heon remembers arriving at a tomb only to be told that TKBM had exclusive rights and nobody else was allowed inside. Resistance wasn't really an option either. Their people were prepared to use force. That was the beginning of everything. Kwon and other powerful relic owners gradually created a world where the best artifacts kept flowing toward the same small group of people. Joo-Heon, however, possessed something they needed: talent. His ability to locate and understand relics eventually caught TKBM's attention, and the company recruited him. At first, that probably looked like an opportunity. In reality, Joo-Heon had just become Kwon's dog. He handled whatever dirty work the chairman needed done. Smuggling, theft, espionage, illegal excavations. If a tomb had been closed by the government, Joo-Heon still went inside. If something valuable needed to disappear, he helped make it happen. Mission after mission, Joo-Heon risked his life while Chairman Kwon's fortune kept growing. And everyone around him knew exactly what kind of relationship they had. People mocked Joo-Heon for surviving by sucking up to a monopolist. They told him he was nothing without the chairman. And the worst part? Joo-Heon endured it. He'd already made the decision to become Kwon's dog, so he swallowed every insult and kept working, until one mission finally revealed how little that loyalty was worth. His own people realized they'd been sent into a trap, and Joo-Heon eventually died there. Back in 2025, though, none of that has happened yet. Kwon hasn't built his empire. Relics haven't taken over society. Most people don't even know what a relic user is. Joo-Heon does. He knows what's coming. He knows how valuable tombs will become. He knows what kind of people will rise to power. And unlike everyone else, he has 15 years of experience dealing with the world that's about to exist. There's only one thing standing between him and that future: money. Getting stronger is great, but Joo-Heon can't raid the world from an empty wallet. Excavations require capital, and some of the earliest relic opportunities will likely appear overseas. He needs money for travel, equipment, everything. While he's thinking about how to get it, something suddenly appears in front of him. Floating text. Joo-Heon stares at it, wondering whether going back in time somehow damaged his brain. But the words remain. His own name is sitting right there. Seo Joo-Heon, Tomb Raider. And underneath it is an insult basically calling him a pathetic pickpocket who can't even use a shovel. That immediately tells Joo-Heon who might be responsible. The Crow. Only a relic would pull something this strange. Another window appears. Tomb Raider basic skills. By rank F. According to the description, the ability lets him detect everything within roughly 1 meter. Now Joo-Heon recognizes it. He had a similar ability through the archaeologist's relic. The relic itself may be gone, but somehow the skill remained when he returned to the past. And apparently, the Crow has turned these abilities into some kind of status system. Things get even stranger when a quest appears. Joo-Heon needs to awaken 4 talents to become a full-fledged Tomb Raider. 1 is already active. 3 are still missing. He doesn't understand why the crow is doing any of this, and trusting it would be incredibly stupid. Relics don't exactly have a reputation for helping humans out of kindness. Still, Joo-Heon can't deny what he's been given. His younger body, his future experience, and now abilities that should have disappeared with his relics. For someone trying to rewrite his entire life, that's a pretty good starting hand. Not long afterward, Detective Kim Jeon-woo comes to help him. Joo-Heon immediately recognizes him. Jeon-woo was one of the few people who looked after him when he had nobody else. Seeing him 15 years younger feels strange, and Joo-Heon even thanks him. That nearly scares the detective more than anything else today. Apparently, hearing Joo-Heon say thank you is so unusual that Jeon-woo starts wondering whether the holding cell traumatized him. Before leaving, Joo-Heon asks him an unusual question. Has anything strange been happening lately? People possessed by monsters? Psychic abilities? Anything supernatural? Jeon-woo looks completely confused. As far as he's concerned, the only psychic around might be his wife, since she somehow manages to discover every stash of money he tries hiding. Joo-Heon gets the answer he needed. Relic users aren't active yet. The tombs may be beginning to appear, but the world still hasn't caught on, which means this is the perfect time to move. The earliest relics were likely more common in places like Europe and the United States, so Joo-Heon's first major problem remains the same. He needs money, fast, and almost as if someone heard him, an extremely familiar face shows up. Park Kyung-tae, a former gangster who became an art broker and runs a small gallery with his older sister, Park Kyung-ju. For Joo-Heon, this guy brings back plenty of unpleasant memories. When he was younger and desperate for cash, he worked for them part-time. The salary was pathetic. The treatment wasn't much better. He put up with violence and humiliation while pretending to be loyal because, back then, he desperately needed the job. Not anymore. When Kyung-tae's people start giving him trouble, Joo-Heon doesn't lower his head or apologize. He resigns, effective immediately, and before he leaves, he wants every bit of unpaid salary and severance they owe him. The gang clearly thinks he's lost his mind. As far as they remember, Joo-Heon isn't supposed to be good at fighting, so they decide to remind him who he's dealing with. Instead, they discover that something about him has completely changed. Joo-Heon tears through them using the combat experience he spent 15 years building. His younger body isn't perfectly trained yet, but against these guys it hardly matters. Within moments, the same people who used to push him around are the ones struggling to keep up. Kyung-tae finally becomes desperate, and that's when he pulls out a blade. Joo-Heon notices it immediately, not because he's afraid of getting stabbed, but because he recognizes what the weapon actually is. A relic. That shouldn't be impossible. Not every relic waits inside a tomb. Some can make their way into human society on their own. And somehow, Kyung-tae got his hands on one before the world even understands what these objects are. For anyone else, that blade would be dangerous. For Joo-Heon, it's an opportunity. His first relic in this new life has practically delivered itself to him. And just like that, his money problem isn't the only thing beginning to solve itself. Somewhere beyond his sight, the crow continues watching. It wants to know how Joo-Heon feels about being alive again. His answer is already obvious. He'll collect the relics before Kwon can reach them. He'll build his own power. And eventually, he'll stand above the man who once controlled his entire life. The crow gives him one final warning. Relics always demand a price. Joo-Heon doesn't hesitate. He doesn't care. Whatever the cost is, whatever trials are waiting for him, he's already experienced what happens when someone else gets everything first. He's not repeating that mistake. His first life ended with Seo Joo-Heon being used and thrown away. His second has only just begun. And this time, he's the one coming for the relics. Joo-Heon doesn't hesitate. The blade Park Kyung-tae pulled on him is a relic, and the second he realizes that, the fight is basically over. He takes the weapon for himself, quickly figures out how to use it, and turns it right back on the same guys who were threatening him a few moments ago. Kyung-tae's men clearly weren't expecting Joo-Heon to actually stab them, and whatever confidence they had left disappears almost immediately. By the time he's finished, nobody is interested in fighting anymore. Back at Seong Gallery, Park Kyung-ju can barely believe what she's hearing. Her men were supposed to deal with one former employee. Instead, Joo-Heon somehow beat all of them, took the relic, emptied their account, and even walked away with a Buddha statue that shouldn't have been worth much in the first place. That last part bothers her more than anything, because Joo-Heon didn't take it randomly, and he knows that too. He brings the statue to several stores, but everyone gives him basically the same answer. It's cheap, practically worthless, and not something any normal person would go through this much trouble to recover. Which means Park Kyung-tae's reaction doesn't make sense. If the statue is worthless, why was he so desperate to keep it? Joo-Heon activates his spy skill and checks it more carefully. This time, the ability detects something hidden inside, a suspicious substance. Now it makes sense. The statue was never valuable because of the artwork itself. It was valuable because of what they were hiding inside it. Joo-Heon immediately calls Detective Kim Ji-woo. Not long afterward, the police arrive at Seong Gallery after receiving a tip about drug smuggling and distribution. Park Kyung-ju tries playing innocent, insisting that they're legitimate art dealers and demanding proof. Unfortunately for her, the police already have plenty. A warehouse connected to the gallery has been discovered, and inside are hundreds of pieces of artwork. Drugs are hidden inside all of them. That's when Kyung-ju really starts panicking. The storage rooms are protected by different passcodes. There shouldn't be any way the police could have opened every single one. Until Ji-woo lets her hear the person responsible. Joo-Heon. He used to work for them, which means he already knew exactly how their operation worked. Apparently, keeping the same passwords around for years wasn't the smartest move. Joo-Heon calmly tells his former boss to enjoy prison. And just like that, the people who used to treat him like a disposable employee lose their entire business. Better yet, the police reward him for the information. 100 million won. Ji-woo even warns him not to blow it all at once. Joo-Heon thinks he's worrying too much. For him, that money isn't something to waste. It's startup capital. Now that he's finally secured enough cash to move, Joo-Heon decides he can start hunting tombs seriously. First, though, he wants some sleep, so he heads home, or at least, where his home is supposed to be. When Joo-Heon arrives, he finds something completely different waiting for him. A tomb has risen right where his house used to be. For most people, having their home swallowed by a mysterious structure would be unbelievably bad luck. Joo-Heon isn't sure whether to call it bad luck at all, because a tomb appearing this early also means one thing. There could already be a relic inside, and he isn't the only person interested. Several foreign teams are already moving around the area. One of them is led by Linda Walker, who is quietly confirming that the local government still doesn't understand what the structure actually is. Their plan is simple. Treat it like an ordinary demolition site, break their way inside, and secure whatever they find before anyone else catches on. But another group has arrived as well. A Japanese excavation team led by Abe Kiyoshi. The moment Linda sees him, the two immediately start trading insults. Neither side trusts the other, and both are clearly here for exactly the same reason. Relics. Joo-Heon watches them from a distance and almost finds the situation funny. These people may have figured out that tombs contain valuable things, but judging by how they're planning to get inside, they still don't understand how tombs actually work. That gives him the advantage. While the others are thinking about explosives and demolition, Joo-Heon notices strange writing on the structure. Tomb glyphs, the language of relics. These markings are incredibly useful because tombs basically leave information about themselves written across their walls. If someone can actually read the language, they can learn where the entrance is, how the tomb is structured, and even where traps might be waiting. For Joo-Heon, this should be valuable information. There's just one problem. He can't read it. At least, not yet. Almost immediately, the mysterious system appears again. A new title is unlocked, Exceptional Decipher, and with it comes another basic tomb rating skill, Linguistics, rank F. Joo-Heon can't help noticing the pattern. The crow apparently wants him to awaken 4 basic talents, and now 2 of them are active. By Linguistics, 2 down, 2 left. More importantly, he can finally understand the glyphs. The writing leads him toward the tomb's actual entrance, and once he follows the instructions correctly, the entire structure reacts. The entrance opens. Outside, both foreign excavation teams are stunned. They were preparing to force their way in, and somehow the tomb just opened on its own. Joo-Heon doesn't stick around to explain. He heads inside before anyone else can catch up. This is exactly the kind of advantage he was hoping for. While everybody else is still trying to understand the rules, he's already playing by them. Deeper inside the tomb, Joo-Heon eventually reaches a pond, and almost immediately, he realizes what kind of relic he's dealing with. Something inside the water notices that a visitor has arrived. A figure appears and presents him with 2 weapons. 1 gold, 1 silver. Then comes the familiar question. Which one did he drop? Joo-Heon recognizes the story immediately. The gold and silver axes. Versions of this folktale exist all over the world, usually based around an honest woodcutter who refuses to claim a gold or silver axe that doesn't belong to him. In the traditional version, honesty gets rewarded, which makes this trial look ridiculously easy. All Joo-Heon has to do is tell the truth. He says neither weapon belongs to him. Exactly as expected, the relic praises his honesty and presents his original blade. If Joo-Heon follows the story from here, he should receive all 3 weapons and clear the trial. But instead of happily taking the reward, he asks to inspect the blade first. The relic agrees, and the moment Joo-Heon gets close enough, he attacks. The Guardian is completely caught off guard. From its perspective, Joo-Heon just passed the trial. He should be accepting his reward, not trying to destroy the thing giving it to him. But Joo-Heon has a very good reason. He doesn't trust this relic at all. Clearing a tomb doesn't automatically mean the reward is safe. And in this particular case, Joo-Heon already knows what happens to people who accept these weapons. He remembers an incident in America. The gold and silver axes eventually manipulated their owners and turned them into serial killers. So no matter how friendly this relic pretends to be, Joo-Heon knows exactly what it's capable of. The Guardian is stunned that he knows something that hasn't even happened yet. Joo-Heon obviously isn't interested in explaining time travel. He just wants the relic. And this time, he's not going to accept it on the relic's terms. He's going to make it submit. That brings him to another part of how relics work. A person can develop different kinds of relationships with them. Affinity is about building trust and maintaining a good relationship with a relic. Adaptability reflects how naturally a person connects with a certain type of relic. But Joo-Heon is much more interested in something else. Dominance. The ability to force relics to obey through sheer control and authority. In his previous life, Joo-Heon apparently relied on another method called symbiosis. This time, he has absolutely no intention of doing that. He wants control. Complete control. So when the gold and silver axes refuse to submit, Joo-Heon doesn't try to become their friend. He overwhelms them. The relic fights back stubbornly, but Joo-Heon keeps increasing the pressure. If it won't acknowledge him willingly, he'll break it until it does. Eventually, the resistance collapses, and Joo-Heon gets what he wanted. The relic belongs to him. His system reacts immediately. Another title appears, recognizing him as someone who has experienced a tomb. More importantly, he unlocks his third basic ability, Tomb Excavation, rank F. The skill improves his understanding of tombs themselves, bringing him to 3 of the 4 basic talents the crow wants him to awaken. Unfortunately, the system also gives him another title, the Relic Abuser. Joo-Heon is less impressed with that one. Apparently, violently forcing relics into submission increases his dominance while lowering his affinity, which, considering how he just acquired these axes, isn't exactly surprising. Still, he has the relic. That's what matters. By the time Linda and Abe's people finally reach the pond, they're already too late. They were apparently acting on a prophecy telling them to throw a relic into the water. But no matter what they try, nothing happens. The reward is gone. Joo-Heon has already cleared the tomb. What does catch his attention, though, is their mention of a prophet. That means someone in Japan already possesses a relic capable of prophecy. Useful information. Before Joo-Heon can learn much more, the tomb starts shaking violently. The place is becoming unstable, and the excavation teams finally realize that staying here is a terrible idea. Everyone rushes to escape. Joo-Heon leaves with exactly what he came for. His first proper tomb raid in this new life is a success. Back at Seong Gallery, things are going much worse. With Park Kyung-ju arrested and the entire operation cleaned out, her remaining men are basically unemployed. They're furious, especially Oh Seok-woo, who loudly declares that Joo-Heon has gone too far and needs to be taught a lesson. The others immediately rally behind him. Finally, someone is going to make Joo-Heon pay. And right as Seok-woo is building himself up, his phone rings. It's Joo-Heon. The entire mood changes. Joo-Heon isn't calling to apologize. He's calling because he has work for them. Elsewhere, the failed excavation teams are also reporting what happened. Their superiors are furious that somebody else got to the relic first. More importantly, the Japanese side appears to have access to something called Future Guide, prophetic relic, and that prophecy has apparently revealed something ominous. Someone who will devour the world. Joo-Heon doesn't know exactly what that means yet, but he does know what his next move should be. He contacts Seok-woo and the others with a job. They're going to Las Vegas, specifically Midas, the largest secret auction in the world. If Joo-Heon's future memories are still accurate, this auction could give him valuable information about Kwon Tae-jun's activities. He tells them to attend the upcoming auction, investigate the items being sold, and look for a man named J.K. Jack K-Man. That's Kwon's alias. Naturally, Seok-woo isn't thrilled. They've just lost everything. How exactly are they supposed to travel internationally? Joo-Heon's answer is basically, figure it out. He'll pay them well enough to cover the expenses. This isn't personal. It's business. And technically, they do have a choice. They can work for him, or they can get beaten again. Not surprisingly, the job starts sounding a lot more reasonable. With those preparations handled, Joo-Heon turns his attention back toward relic hunting. Around this time, the news is filled with strange incidents. Random attacks, people behaving irrationally. One recent case even involves someone attempting to set himself on fire at a station. To everyone else, these look like unrelated crimes. Joo-Heon remembers them differently. Similar incidents started happening before tombs began appearing openly, which means the relic era is accelerating. While he's thinking about that, he happens to run into Abe Kiyoshi again. Abe immediately starts complaining after the two nearly collide. but Joo-Heon barely listens. Because if Abe is here, there's a good chance another tomb is about to appear nearby. And right on cue, Joo-Heon notices something even more interesting. Abe is carrying a relic. Worse, he's doing a terrible job hiding its aura. From Joo-Heon's perspective, that's practically an invitation. He has no idea exactly what the relic is yet, but he knows one thing. He wants it. So while Abe is busy yelling at him, Joo-Heon casually creates a distraction, spilling his drink and pretending to deal with the mess. Abe gets even more irritated, demanding money for cleaning. Joo-Heon acts completely harmless, even points out Abe's dropped identification. And by the time the exchange is over, Abe still hasn't realized what's actually happened. Joo-Heon stole the relic. Seconds later, the signs begin appearing. A tomb spiral. Another tomb is about to emerge. Abe receives confirmation from his people that everything is happening exactly as predicted. Then they give him one more warning. According to the prophecy, the Japanese man who stole the axe relic is somewhere close to him. And for some strange reason, he's also been told to be careful with alcohol. Abe immediately thinks back to Joo-Heon. He checks himself. The relic is gone. By then, Joo-Heon is already walking away with his new prize, but he's nowhere near satisfied. The gold and silver axes were only the beginning. Katana Relic is next on his list. And after that, he wants the future guide itself. Because if Joo-Heon can combine his memories of the future with a relic capable of seeing what's still ahead, he'll become incredibly difficult to stop. Even the silver axe seems impressed by how ambitious its new master is. Joo-Heon simply tells it to stay hidden until he needs it. He has another relic to steal first. And now the only question is how he's going to take it from the person who already owns it. Tomb Spiral confirms exactly what Joo-Heon was expecting. Another tomb is about to appear, and this one is much more dangerous than the last. The moment the strange atmosphere starts spreading through the area, Joo-Heon recognizes it. Broken swords begin appearing everywhere, and the oppressive aura hanging over the place tells him exactly which relic is responsible. Muramasa, a legendary cursed katana associated with the famous swordsmith Muramasa, whose blades became infamous for their terrifying sharpness and the bloodshed surrounding them. This particular tomb is especially hostile toward humans, and Joo-Heon feels that almost immediately. The relic's bloodthirsty energy starts attacking his body the moment he enters. His skin is already taking damage, which means he can't afford to wander around for long. Unfortunately, there's a problem. The tomb is enormous. Joo-Heon knows what he's looking for, but knowing the name of the relic and actually finding it are two completely different things. Even the golden axe can't locate Muramasa from this far away, and that annoys him because Abe Kiyoshi already entered before him. The Japanese team has access to prophecy. If they know where Muramasa is hidden, Abe could reach it first. Joo-Heon immediately regrets not following him when he had the chance. Now he has to track him down inside this ridiculous maze before Abe gets his hands on one of the nastiest blade relics around. As Joo-Heon moves deeper into the tomb, things are already starting to go wrong. A high school girl suddenly begins behaving violently, and Joo-Heon immediately recognizes the symptoms. She's been possessed by Muramasa's influence, and that creates a much bigger problem than one possessed girl. Anyone cut by one of these cursed blades can become possessed too. If people start swinging them around blindly, this place could turn into a massacre very quickly. Joo-Heon eventually reaches a strange section of the tomb where several people have been thrown into a deep pit. Above them is a mechanism. The tomb wants a sacrifice. Someone has to be offered into the hole before the bridge will appear. Joo-Heon asks what happened, and the trapped people explain that a Japanese man came through shortly before him. The guy sang some strange Japanese phrase, activated the mechanism, and then shoved them down here before continuing on his way. That tells Joo-Heon everything he needs. It passed through recently. He's still close, and more importantly, he used innocent people as disposable sacrifices just to move forward. Joo-Heon decides he can solve two problems at once. He pulls out another relic he recently obtained. A rope pattern bracelet connected to the old folktale about the brother and sister who became the sun and moon. The story involves a tiger chasing the children after attacking their mother. As they desperately try to escape, a rope descends from the sky and saves them. The relic contains that same power. The moment Joo-Heon handles it, his status system reacts. A new title appears, Thief's Hand, and with it comes the last basic tomb raiding skill he was missing. Nimble Fingers, rank F. The ability is incredibly useful. By simply touching an item once, Joo-Heon can understand how to use it. His hand dexterity improves as well. More importantly, this completes the crow's original mission. By linguistics, tomb excavation, and now Nimble Fingers, all four talents have awakened. Joo-Heon is officially recognized as a fully fledged tomb raider. Not bad considering he's only been back in the past for a very short time. The timing couldn't be better either. He activates the rope relic and orders it to restrain the possessed girl before she can hurt anyone else. The relic is a little too excited about the job, happily wrapping itself around her, while acting like it just found a new playmate. Joo-Heon is already beginning to realize that owning relics means dealing with their personalities too. Still, the girl is contained, and the trapped people can finally explain where Abe went. He crossed the bridge and disappeared into a cave ahead. So Joo-Heon makes a deal with the rope. Help him catch the Japanese guy who dumped these people here, and it can come out again later. That's apparently enough motivation. By the time Joo-Heon reaches Abe, the Japanese agent is convinced everything is going perfectly. The future guide told him where Muramasa should be, and he's already eliminated the witnesses who could interfere with his mission. Now all he needs is the relic, and once he has Muramasa, he believes nobody will be able to stand against him. There's just one small issue. The room is filled with broken katanas, thousands of useless blades, and Abe has absolutely no idea which one is Muramasa. That's when Joo-Heon arrives, along with the people Abe threw into the pit. The victims immediately point him out, and Abe realizes his little shortcut has come back to bite him. He demands to know how they got here. Joo-Heon doesn't bother hiding it. Of course this was his doing. Abe came all this way with an entire government-backed excavation team and still couldn't even find the relic sitting right in front of him. Joo-Heon, meanwhile, has a much simpler solution. The Golden X. He orders it to locate the real relic. And finally, Muramasa reveals itself. The cursed sword speaks directly to them. If someone wants its true power, Muramasa demands the blood of 10 humans. Feed it 10 people, and the blade will return to its proper form. Refuse, and everyone will remain trapped inside the tomb forever. Abe and the others are horrified. Joo-Heon is mostly annoyed. Blade relics are always such a pain. Muramasa is clearly expecting the humans to turn on one another and start killing. Joo-Heon has absolutely no intention of playing along. Instead, he chooses the method he's already committed himself to. Dominance. If Muramasa wants to test him, then Joo-Heon will simply remind the relic who's actually being tested here. He forces his will onto the sword. Muramasa fights back hard, spreading copies of itself throughout the tomb and refusing to acknowledge a human as its master. But Joo-Heon has no patience for that. He orders the real Muramasa to absorb all of its clones. The relic resists. Joo-Heon pushes harder. And once again, the contest becomes less about winning the tomb's trial and more about forcing the relic itself to surrender. That's the path he chose. He doesn't want relics that politely agree to help him. He wants relics that obey. Eventually, Muramasa loses. Joo-Heon claims the cursed katana without sacrificing a single person. With the relic secured, he starts getting the trapped civilians out. Abe quickly changes tactics. Instead of fighting Joo-Heon, he tries recruiting him. He promises government support, good money, and access to Japan's prophetic relic, the future guide. From Abe's perspective, someone with Joo-Heon's skill would be incredibly valuable. But Joo-Heon immediately catches something strange. The future guide is supposed to be the kind of relic that only its chosen owner can use. So how exactly is the Japanese excavation team benefiting from it so freely? Abe explains that there's a company capable of solving that problem. A company that supports excavators and can help people make use of relic abilities they normally wouldn't have access to. Surely Joo-Heon has heard of them. TKBM. The moment Joo-Heon hears that name, any tiny chance of him accepting disappears. So that's how deep Kwon's influence already goes. Even this early, TKBM is quietly positioning itself around relic users and excavation teams. Joo-Heon has heard enough. He tells Abe goodbye, permanently. Then he seals the tomb behind him. Abe immediately starts screaming for help. Maybe his beloved TKBM can handle that. Outside, the incident becomes much bigger than anyone expected. More than 50 people were temporarily trapped inside the strange structure, and the media finally begins reporting openly on the tomb. Witnesses describe the dangerous interior and the blades covering the walls. They also mention the Japanese man involved. Now governments around the world are paying attention. Japan is forced into an embarrassing position, while other countries begin publicly criticizing what happened. The Japanese excavation team is furious. Their secret operation didn't just fail. Joo-Heon accidentally helped expose tombs and relic activity to the entire public. Mori Hiroyuki, the head of the excavation team, takes the blame. But he insists the situation can still be fixed, because the future guide can now track Joo-Heon. Normally, the relic can only properly read someone after its owner has directly encountered that person. But Abe was already marked by the future guide when he came into contact with Joo-Heon. That connection is weak, but it's enough to create an imperfect mark. If they can get the actual owner close to him, they'll be able to read his future much more clearly. Meanwhile, Joo-Heon is recovering in a hotel, and he's starting to feel the downside of the path he chose. Forcing powerful relics into submission takes a serious toll on his body. Dominance lets him bypass a relic's normal trial and overpower it directly, but but stronger relics resist harder. If Joo-Heon keeps brute-forcing every artifact he encounters, eventually his body won't be able to handle the damage. That's when the Crow's system finally delivers the reward for completing his 4 basic skills. But first, Joo-Heon has to make a choice: the path of affinity or the path of domination. For about half a second, the system acts like this is some difficult moral decision. Joo-Heon almost seems offended. Has the Crow learned nothing about him yet? He chooses dominance immediately. The reward appears, and it's candy. Joo-Heon stares at the thing in disbelief. After all that work, he was expecting something a little more impressive. A weapon, a loot box, maybe some legendary relic. Instead, he gets what looks like cheap candy. Still, he eats it. If it kills him, then apparently that's just how the second life ends. The taste is horrible, and moments later, something unexpected happens. His wounds heal. The mysterious food contained relic poison, but Joo-Heon's body survives it and makes a complete recovery. That unlocks another ability: tolerance, an immunity skill that can protect him against relic poisoning. Now that is useful. Joo-Heon realizes the Crow isn't simply giving him random powers. Whatever this thing wants, it's deliberately preparing him for the dangers associated with relics. The question is why? What does the Crow actually gain by helping him? Joo-Heon doesn't get an answer. Instead, another warning suddenly appears. An S-rank relic has marked him. Someone is reading his future. Joo-Heon knows exactly which relic it is. Princess Shotoku's Future Guide, a prophetic book connected to Prince Shotoku, the famous statesman from ancient Japan. Unlike relics that hide inside tombs, the Future Guide chooses its own owner. And in this era, that owner is a young woman named Sasaki Yuka. Japan discovered her soon after realizing what the Future Guide could do, and the government immediately began supporting her. On paper, Sasaki should have become one of the most valuable people in the country. Unfortunately, there's a pretty ridiculous problem. She isn't very good at reading classical Japanese. The prophecies are filled with difficult kanji and old language, so half the time she struggles just to understand what the Future Guide is trying to tell her. The excavation team basically has her copy symbols she can't read so someone else can interpret them. And during one of those readings, Sasaki suddenly finds something terrifying: prophecy about herself. Sasaki Yuka dies. Meanwhile, Joo-Heon is casually waiting for food in his hotel, wondering why the Japanese team hasn't made their move yet. He already knows they're watching him, and he's pretty sure the Future Guide should have warned them about what's coming. So what are they waiting for? Outside, Sasaki is terrified. The team's plan requires her to personally approach Joo-Heon so the Future Guide can mark him properly. She doesn't need to fight him. She just needs to look him in the eye and leave. Simple. Except her relic just told her she's about to die. The agents assure her they'll protect her. So Sasaki reluctantly disguises herself as the person delivering Joo-Heon's sushi. She approaches his room, knocks, and the second Joo-Heon sees her, he knows exactly who she is. The owner of the Future Guide has just walked straight up to him. Bold move. Outside, the agents are ready to rush in the moment something goes wrong. And when Joo-Heon's hand moves toward Muramasa, they immediately panic. Sasaki is about to get killed. They prepare to breach the room, but instead of attacking, something completely different happens. Sasaki asks if she can be his fan. Even Joo-Heon doesn't see that coming. She hands him a strange handwritten message filled with bizarre slang, broken phrases, and the kind of writing that makes absolutely no sense to the older agents trying to monitor the situation. Apparently, this is Sasaki's attempt to communicate without openly revealing anything. And for Joo-Heon, the entire situation creates an unexpected opportunity. The agents finally charge in, only to realize their carefully planned operation has already fallen apart. Joo-Heon deals with the people monitoring Sasaki, cuts off their ability to interfere, and casually decides that now that the annoying chaperones are gone, maybe he and Sasaki should go somewhere nicer. In other words, he takes the owner of Japan's most valuable prophetic relic right out from under them. The Japanese agents completely lose it. Their operation involved government resources, surveillance, prophecy, and an entire team. And somehow Joo-Heon still turned it against them. Again. But he already got what he needed. He confirmed information from the Future Guide. And with that settled, Joo-Heon is ready to move on. His next target won't be somewhere in Korea. It's waiting at an underground auction in Las Vegas. And if his memories are correct, that auction is about to bring him even closer to the Relic Empire he intends to steal before Kwon Tae-jun can build it. Saki is still trying to figure Joo-Heon out. The Japanese military clearly treats her like a tool, sending her straight into danger while keeping her under constant surveillance. Joo-Heon already knows that, of course, and when he casually brings it up, Sasaki is stunned. She never told him any of this, but Joo-Heon has his ways. More importantly, he also knows she doesn't exactly enjoy being used by the government. So instead of threatening her outright, he gives her a much more tempting idea. Why not cause a little trouble for the people controlling her? For Sasaki, that sounds surprisingly fun. She's also starting to realize something else. Joo-Heon isn't nearly as terrifying as everyone made him sound. The Japanese agents practically convinced her this guy would curse her to death the second she got close, but so far he's just weirdly confident. And besides, Sasaki already managed to make eye contact with him. That means the future guide should now be able to read his future properly. There's just one small problem. She left the relic at home. At least that's what she thinks. Joo-Heon takes her somewhere more private, then suddenly asks for her phone. The friendly mood disappears fast. He already knows who she is, and more importantly, he knows she possesses the future guide. Sasaki immediately panics. Her cover is gone. Joo-Heon, meanwhile, acts like they're still on some perfectly normal date. He tells her to summon the relic and start copying every prophecy she can see into a notebook. Sasaki tries the obvious excuse. She doesn't have it with her. Joo-Heon just looks at her like she's embarrassing herself. The future guide is bound to her. All she has to do is touch the mark on her arm and call it. Sasaki didn't even know that. The relic appears instantly. And now her date turns into several painful hours of copying prophecy after prophecy while Joo-Heon watches over her. Eventually, her arm is so sore she can barely write. She finally offers him the future guide itself. If he wants it that badly, he can have the thing. Just let her go. Unfortunately, that won't work either. Joo-Heon would have taken it already if that were possible. The future guide isn't some low-level artifact he can bully into submission without consequences. It's an S-rank hero-class relic. Trying to dominate something that powerful by force would come with a massive backlash. Muramasa was already dangerous enough, and that relic ranked lower. If Joo-Heon tried the same thing here, a broken arm would probably be the least of his problems. So for now, Sasaki stays useful. Before he can extract much more information, the Japanese agents finally catch up. They try using their authority to take Sasaki back, insisting this is official business. Joo-Heon isn't impressed. He already expected them to come. And since they're becoming annoying, he decides it's time to deal with the real problem. The future guide itself. Sasaki panics when Joo-Heon suddenly turns on the relic. Destroying something this valuable sounds insane. But Joo-Heon has already made his decision. If he can't safely take the future guide for himself, then leaving an S-rank prophetic relic in enemy hands is even worse. So he destroys it. The system immediately reacts. Apparently, beating Relics into submission wasn't enough to ruin his reputation. Now he earns another title, Violent Relic Destroyer. His dominance rises again while his affinity drops even further. But there are benefits too. Destroying such a powerful relic improves his ability to detect other relics, raising his spy skill to rank E. He also unlocks a completely new ability, Giant Hunter. Joo-Heon barely has time to inspect it before the Japanese soldiers burst in. The moment they see the destroyed future guide, they lose their minds. From their perspective, Joo-Heon just eliminated one of Japan's most valuable supernatural assets right in front of them. They threaten to execute him on the spot. Joo-Heon responds by throwing food at them. More specifically, a relic, a one-use rice cake. At first, the soldiers have no idea what he's trying to pull. Then the smell hits. Suddenly, everyone in the room becomes completely obsessed with the rice cake. Discipline disappears. Rank disappears. Even the commanding officer starts fighting with his own men over who gets to eat it. One guy reminds him that they all have guns. The officer couldn't care less. He wants the rice cake. While the entire unit turns on itself over a snack, Joo-Heon calmly slips away. Ridiculous, but effective. More importantly, he got what he actually wanted from Sasaki before destroying the future guide. Prophecy. And this one is big. The text describes something called the Great Entombment, a future disaster where the entire world becomes swallowed by an enormous tomb and countless relics flood into society. The prophecy points toward January and describes a place filled with greed, where an omen of a worldwide catastrophe will begin. Joo-Heon doesn't need long to figure out the location. Las Vegas. More specifically, Midas, the massive underground auction house. The prophecy also mentions a god connected to greed walking among the people there. That means someone attending this auction is probably carrying something extremely valuable, possibly a god-tier relic. Now Joo-Heon is even more interested. He checks the guest list. 3 participants are using names with the initials JK, but one of them immediately stands out. Jack K, presumed Japanese nationality, around 50 years old. Joo-Heon knows the details are fake. There's no doubt in his mind. This is Kwon Tae-jun, which means the chairman is already going to Midas. And if Kwon is personally attending an underground relic auction this early in the timeline, there must be some very high-quality artifacts on sale. Joo-Heon checks the catalog. No obvious god-tier relic appears. Still, several items catch his attention. The Code of Hammurabi, Shakespeare's pen, and a few other relics worth bidding on. There's just one problem. Midas auctions don't exactly cater to broke customers. Prices can start around 100 million. Joo-Heon has some money now, but nowhere near enough to casually compete with billionaires and corporate chairmen. Fortunately, he's in Las Vegas. Money is everywhere. He just has to take some. Elsewhere, word reaches another powerful group that the future guide has been destroyed. They initially assume an entire team must have been responsible. When they learn one man did it, their response isn't to immediately eliminate him. Quite the opposite. Someone powerful enough to destroy the future guide could be extremely useful. They decide Joo-Heon might be better recruited than killed. Joo-Heon, meanwhile, has already started solving his money problem. At a casino, and people are beginning to notice something very strange. Every slot machine he touches keeps hitting jackpots. Again, and again, and again. Other gamblers start crowding around him, begging Joo-Heon to play their machines too. Casino staff eventually step in. An endless streak of wins is a little too suspicious to ignore. They ask to inspect him. Joo-Heon happily cooperates. The only strange thing they find is a small keychain. He casually explains that it's just a souvenir, a colorful little trinket that can even turn into a tiny knife. Nothing unusual, except that's not actually what it is. The keychain is the golden axe in a transformed state. Joo-Heon has been using its ability to detect and attract treasure. To him, draining slot machines with a legendary relic is slightly embarrassing. But money is money. Once he's made enough, he moves on. The next destination is Midas. The auction is already packed with wealthy buyers, collectors, agents, and people powerful enough to treat rare supernatural artifacts like ordinary luxury goods. Joo-Heon works his way through the crowd until someone catches his attention. Yoon Si-woo. He looks younger than Joo-Heon remembers, but the face is still just as irritating. And if Si-woo is here, then Kwon can't be far away. Sure enough, a group of people begins forcing everyone aside as an important guest approaches. Joo-Heon looks over. There he is, Kwon Tae-joon, the man responsible for everything that happened in Joo-Heon's first life. At this point in history, Kwon doesn't even know who Joo-Heon is. To him, they're complete strangers. For Joo-Heon, this is the first time he's seen the man since dying because of him. Understandably, revenge immediately crosses his mind. But Joo-Heon doesn't rush in. This isn't the time. He has a much better way to hurt Kwon. Take every valuable relic at the auction before Kwon can get them. Before he can focus on that plan, however, something strange happens inside Joo-Heon's bag. The relics start reacting. The golden axe has the ability to detect treasure. The silver axe does something different. It senses enemies targeting its master's valuables. Right now, it's going crazy. And whatever it detected isn't just coming after Joo-Heon's treasure. Chaos suddenly erupts throughout the entire area. People begin shouting about stolen money. Stock prices start collapsing. Phones malfunction. Businesses receive disastrous news. Everything that can go wrong seems to go wrong at the exact same time. Joo-Heon immediately realizes this isn't normal. Then he sees her, Irene Holton, the youngest daughter of the enormously wealthy Holton family. Joo-Heon remembers her very well from the future. Some of the strongest relic users eventually became known as kings. There was the King of Destiny, the King of Conquest, the King of Abundance, and then there was Irene, the King of Bankruptcy. Her power was terrifying because she barely needed to do anything. Simply being around Irene caused misfortune. People lost money. Businesses collapsed. Health failed. Entire companies could be pushed toward bankruptcy just because she was nearby. Joo-Heon's first instinct is simple. Stay away from her. Far away. He tells his people to grab everything and leave immediately. But Irene notices him, and once she starts approaching, Joo-Heon's system goes into full panic mode. A powerful, ominous presence is coming from her direction. His relics could be critically damaged. Even his tolerance starts being worn down. Joo-Heon tries to escape. Too late. Irene reaches him and grabs hold. The effect is immediate. His relics become badly weakened. His luck gets completely crushed. Anything he attempts is now more likely to fail. Joo-Heon rips himself away and demands to know what she wants. Irene apologizes. Apparently, she got a little too excited. She isn't here to attack him. She's looking for the mysterious man who kept winning jackpots. She wants to know his secret. Joo-Heon pretends she has the wrong person. His companions naturally think he's insane. A beautiful woman just approached him first, and he's trying to run away. One of them even offers to handle the situation himself. Joo-Heon ignores him and quickly changes tactics. If Irene wants to know his secret, maybe they can talk over dinner. His men have absolutely no idea what he's doing. Neither does Irene, but she follows him. The moment they sit down, things become clearer. Irene is miserable. The people around her keep suffering terrible accidents and financial disasters, and she believes she's somehow responsible. That's why she started searching for a way to improve her luck. Not because she wants more money. She wants the people around her to stop getting hurt. That catches Joo-Heon off guard. The Irene he remembers was infamous for throwing the world into economic chaos. This woman seems nothing like that. For a moment, he wonders whether it's an act. But the more she talks, the more obvious it becomes. Irene herself isn't evil. She's being possessed by an extremely powerful relic of misfortune. And as her life gets destroyed by that power, her personality will eventually change too. That explains the terrifying woman Joo-Heon remembers from the future. Right now, she hasn't reached that point yet. Irene offers him as much money as he wants if he can teach her how to become lucky. While she's pleading with him, Joo-Heon's system reacts again. He's been exposed to the aura of a god-tier relic, but this time his tolerance skill activates. The damage is reduced by half. Now Joo-Heon realizes something important. The mysterious silver consumable the crow gave him wasn't just useful against poison. The tolerance ability can adapt to hostile relic effects too. That changes how he sees Irene. Instead of avoiding her, staying near her might actually help him strengthen tolerance. And there's another advantage. If Irene enters the auction with him, everyone around her will be drowning in bad luck, including his rivals. Suddenly, the king of bankruptcy looks less like a threat and more like a weapon. Joo-Heon tells Irene he's busy right now, but they can discuss a deal afterward. He's heading to the auction. Irene immediately asks if she can come with him. Joo-Heon agrees. Behind them, the people affected by her aura are already begging for ambulances. The 74th Midas auction begins. But thanks to Irene, the venue is strangely empty. Nearly two-thirds of the participants have already left to deal with random disasters that suddenly struck their businesses or personal lives. Even one of Kwon Tae-jun's factories catches fire. Kwon doesn't leave. That tells Joo-Heon something important. There must be an item here Kwon wants badly enough to ignore a major emergency. The auction starts with ordinary high-value collectibles. A bottle of wine once owned by Russian royalty. Rare historical objects. Things wealthy people would normally fight over. Joo-Heon isn't interested yet. The relics he wants appear later. For now, he keeps studying Irene. She looks completely different from the king of bankruptcy he remembers. She doesn't even seem aware relics exist. Most likely, the god-tier artifact attached itself to her on its own. And that's when Joo-Heon accidentally learns the most terrifying part of Irene's ability. She thanks him for listening to her problems. Just talking to someone has made her feel better. Her mood improves. The relic gets stronger. Much stronger. Joo-Heon's system immediately starts screaming warnings. The happier Irene becomes, the more powerful the misfortune surrounding her gets. Within moments, its effect spreads over a massive radius. Joo-Heon's relics start taking severe damage. Even his own body feels it. This relic literally punishes the world whenever its owner feels happy. Joo-Heon can't believe how twisted that is. He quickly tells Irene to calm down. Luckily, her mood drops again when she realizes she's causing trouble. The relic's power returns to normal. But Joo-Heon has already figured out how to exploit it. Soon, the auction begins spiraling out of control. Participants start bidding irrationally. A relatively ordinary item shoots toward ridiculous prices. People argue. Egos flare up. Everyone becomes obsessed with winning. Irene's misfortune is destroying their judgment. Joo-Heon quietly keeps her hopeful. He tells her maybe she really can make the people around her happy someday. Her mood improves again, and the relic blasts everyone around them with an even stronger wave of bad luck. Now buyers are basically sabotaging themselves. Exactly what Joo-Heon wanted. Kwon Tae-jun, however, remains relatively composed. His dominance is probably high enough to resist much of Irene's influence. So whenever Kwon shows interest in something Joo-Heon considers worthless, Joo-Heon deliberately pushes the price higher. If Kwon wants junk, he can pay a fortune for it. Eventually, the relics Joo-Heon actually cares about begin appearing. The Code of Hammurabi, Shakespeare's pen, Marie Antoinette's necklace, useful artifacts, interesting artifacts, but still, nothing matching the god-tier relic mentioned in the prophecy. Joo-Heon starts wondering whether he misunderstood something. Then the auctioneer announces a set of special items that weren't included in the catalog. And one of them immediately grabs Joo-Heon's full attention. A mysterious almond sapling. To everyone else, it looks like a strange plant that's received some media attention. Joo-Heon knows exactly what it is. Qin Shi Huang's Herb of Eternal Life. The relic connected to the legendary emperor's search for immortality. This is it. The moment Joo-Heon sees the sapling, everything clicks. This is the relic Kwon came here for. And Joo-Heon remembers exactly what happens if Kwon gets it again. So now the auction has become much more than a chance to collect useful artifacts. Joo-Heon has one immediate objective. No matter what it takes, Chairman Kwon Tae-jun cannot leave this place with the Herb of Eternal Life. Bidding starts immediately, and the moment another hand goes up, Joo-Heon knows exactly who noticed the sapling. Kwon Tae-jun. To everyone else in the room, the thing is just a strange almond tree with a ridiculous rumor attached to it. Apparently, it's supposed to improve sexual stamina. Joo-Heon almost wants to scream. These people have absolutely no idea what they're looking at. This is Qin Shi Huang's Herb of Eternal Life, a relic connected to the legendary emperor who desperately searched for immortality. And for Joo-Heon, this isn't just another valuable artifact. In his first life, his body was slowly destroyed by years of relic exposure. Without the Herb of Eternal Life, he probably wouldn't have survived nearly as long as he did. He spent years doing filthy jobs just to gain access to the fruit Kwon controlled. It was practically his lifeline. And now Joo-Heon realizes something unpleasant. This must be where Kwon obtained it the first time. If history repeats itself and the chairman gets the herb again, Joo-Heon could eventually end up trapped in the same future. He refuses to let that happen. The auction starts at $200,000. Within seconds, the price explodes. 500,000, 10 million, 15, 20, 40, 50 million. The room goes quiet. Even the people who thought they were bidding on some miracle sex drug finally start realizing something is wrong. Then Kwon raises the price to $100 million. That's when Joo-Heon turns to Irene. He needs deeper pockets. And nobody in this room has deeper pockets than the Holton family. Irene joins the bidding. 150 million. Kwon answers. 160. Irene jumps to 200 million. At this point, even Kwon's own people start panicking. They recognize Irene immediately. She's the youngest daughter of the Holton family, and trying to outspend her is basically financial suicide. Kwon still refuses to back down. 220 million. His staff practically begs him to stop. The chairman is clearly furious that someone suddenly barged in and took control of the auction. But Irene isn't done. $300 million. That finally ends it. Kwon's people physically hold him back before he burns even more money trying to win. The herb goes to Irene, which, as far as Joo-Heon is concerned, means it goes to him. After the auction, Irene worries that she just spent an absurd amount of money because of his problem. Joo-Heon tells her not to worry. If this really helps solve what's happening to her, the expense is worth it. That naturally brings Irene back to the question she's been asking from the beginning. How exactly is he going to improve her luck? Joo-Heon finally gives her the answer. He isn't planning to give her a lucky charm. He wants to take away the thing causing her bad luck. Something strange has attached itself to her. If she gives it to him, her misfortune should disappear. From Joo-Heon's perspective, it's perfect. Irene gets freed from the relic ruining her life, and he gets to keep an insanely powerful god-tier relic. Two problems solved at once. Except Irene looks completely confused. She doesn't know about anything following her. So Joo-Heon changes the question. Has anything unusual appeared on her body? A mark, a symbol, maybe a tattoo that wasn't there before. That gets a reaction. Now Joo-Heon knows he's close. Possession-type relics often leave marks on their owners. Sasaki's tattoo was proof of her contract with the future guide. Unlike consumable relics that almost anyone can use, possession-type artifacts usually belong specifically to the person they've chosen. Joo-Heon asks Irene to show him the mark, and the moment he sees it, his plan falls apart. This isn't a normal possession relic. It's parasitic, a much rarer type that actually lives inside its host, meaning Joo-Heon can't simply steal it from her. So much for the easy solution. He tells Irene they'll need more time. For now, they can stay in contact while he figures out how to separate her from the relic safely. He gives her his number and promises he isn't going to disappear. Privately, he already has another solution. If he can't take the King of Bankruptcy's power yet, he'll just keep Irene close. Not long afterward, Joo-Heon collects everything he won from the auction. The almond sapling, the Code of Hammurabi, Shakespeare's pen, Marie Antoinette's necklace, and the other relics he managed to secure while everyone around Irene was losing their minds. The auction staff offers to transport the items for him. Joo-Heon refuses. He already has people for that. At least, he should. When he calls, nobody answers. That's because Sugwoo and the others have made what might be the dumbest decision of their lives. They ran away with Joo-Heon's money. The group is celebrating like they've just become millionaires. They're already talking about never working again and spending the rest of their lives having fun. For a few beautiful minutes, they genuinely think they escaped. Then Joo-Heon appears. The celebration dies instantly. They can't understand how he tracked them down so quickly. The answer is simple. The Silver Axe. Its whole job is detecting enemies who threaten its master's treasure. These guys stole Joo-Heon's money and thought they could hide from a relic specifically designed to notice exactly that. Not their brightest moment. Joo-Heon decides this is a good chance to test another artifact from the auction. The Code of Hammurabi. To the others, it looks more like some random glowing stone than a powerful relic. But its ability is based on one of the oldest legal principles in history. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's a counter-type relic. If an enemy attacks Joo-Heon, the code can return that attack back to them. But that isn't the part that interests him most. The relic can also place restrictions on someone's future actions. So Joo-Heon uses it on his runaway employees. The rule is simple. Betray him again, and the punishment will come automatically. He doesn't even need to explain exactly what that means. The possibility of being torn apart is enough. Suddenly, everyone becomes extremely loyal again. With that settled, Joo-Heon moves on to the herb. The almond sapling is already showing that it has a personality of its own. The second the men take it out of its pot, it starts screaming, "Put me back! Don't touch me! I'll curse you!" Apparently, the herb of eternal life is incredibly dramatic. Joo-Heon orders the others to repot it properly and focus on the real job. They need fruit. That fruit is the reason this relic matters. Oddly enough, once one of the men starts handling the plant more gently, the herb calms down. It even seems to enjoy the attention. Joo-Heon notices immediately. These idiots have high affinity. That explains why the relic responds to them so much better than it did to him. Joo-Heon already tried forming a contract with the herb, but it resisted him aggressively. Now he understands why. His entire style is built around dominance. He forces relics to obey. The herb of eternal life apparently prefers people who naturally get along with relics instead. Fine. If his men are useful for something, Joo-Heon isn't going to complain. Then his phone rings. The number looks familiar, and the moment Joo-Heon sees it, he already knows what this means. TKBM has finished investigating him. The call comes directly from Kwon Tae-jun. Kwon introduces himself politely and gets straight to the point. He knows Joo-Heon has the tree Irene 1 at Midas. He wants to discuss buying it. Joo-Heon shuts him down immediately. There's nothing to discuss. Kwon isn't used to being dismissed like that. Neither are the people around him. One of them, Yoon Si-woo, volunteers to handle the problem personally. As far as he's concerned, Joo-Heon is just some ordinary guy who got lucky. If TKBM allows him to use a company relic, bringing the tree back should be easy. And if Si-woo succeeds, maybe he can score some points with the chairman. Joo-Heon, meanwhile, has already noticed that the silver axe has been reacting for days. Someone has been investigating him. He's actually surprised TKBM took this long to make a move. By the time Yoon finally approaches him, Joo-Heon is almost relieved. At least something interesting is happening. Si-woo comes alone. That tells Joo-Heon exactly how seriously they're taking him. Not seriously at all. Even better, Si-woo is carrying a relic. Joo-Heon can sense it immediately. The conversation begins badly. Si-woo tries acting intimidating, but Joo-Heon keeps pretending he barely remembers him from the auction. Eventually, Joo-Heon claims he recognizes him. He's Chairman Kwon's little goldfish poop. That does it. Si-woo completely loses his temper. And that's exactly what Joo-Heon wanted. Dominance depends heavily on a person's mental state. Confidence, focus, control. Si-woo tries to act tough, but underneath that performance, he's incredibly insecure. Once somebody pushes the right button, he stops thinking clearly. And when his emotional control disappears, so does his ability to properly command high-ranking relics. Joo-Heon keeps provoking him until Si-woo's dominance collapses. Then he simply takes the relic. Si-woo is horrified. Joo-Heon shouldn't even know relics exist yet. Instead, not only does he know what they are, he knows exactly how to steal one. The artifact turns out to be Voodoo Priest's zombie powder, an A-rank possession-type relic. Its power is based on voodoo beliefs involving punishment through zombification. Anyone who touches or inhales the powder can temporarily lose their sanity and behave like a zombie. The relic recognizes Joo-Heon's dominance almost immediately. It doesn't resist much, which makes Si-woo's humiliation even worse. He came to steal the herb and ended up losing his own relic. Joo-Heon gives him a taste of it before leaving. Soon, TKBM receives a ridiculous report. Yoon Si-woo was found wandering around the streets behaving like a zombie. The police are even considering drug tests. Kwon doesn't care about Si-woo's embarrassment. He wants the relic back. Unfortunately, it wasn't on Yoon when he was found. That forces TKBM to change strategies. Meanwhile, Joo-Heon prepares to move again. His men complain about carrying so much luggage, but he tells them to take everything. These relics are their war chest. And when Joo-Heon actually looks at what he has gathered so far, the collection is becoming impressive. The Egyptian funeral knife, the gold and silver axes, the rope, Muramesa, the Code of Hammurabi, Shakespeare's pen, Marie Antoinette's necklace, the herb of eternal life, the zombie powder, a wealth-type foxtail millet relic, Homero's glasses, and several other useful artifacts. For someone who only recently returned to the past, Joo-Heon has already built himself a serious starting arsenal. That's when TKBM sends someone more sophisticated. Attorney Lee Jina. Unlike Yoon, she doesn't arrive screaming or trying to show off. She comes with an offer. Chairman Kwon supposedly respects Joo-Heon's ability. TKBM wants him on its excavation team. The contract is worth $100 million, plus a separate monthly salary. They promise not to interfere with his personal life. On paper, it sounds incredible. Joo-Heon hears something completely different. A slave contract. He has already lived through the version of history where he works for Kwon. He knows exactly what those promises are worth. Lee's polite tone disappears. She warns him that rejecting TKBM could become dangerous. Kwon has enough power to make businesses disappear. People around Joo-Heon could suddenly die from mysterious illnesses. Joo-Heon himself could easily become a target. So the real offer is simple. Work for us, or suffer. Joo-Heon almost finds that funny. He warns Lee to be careful who she threatens. Because right now, she's the one standing in front of a man carrying zombie powder. Lee doesn't believe he'll actually use a relic in a crowded place. Joo-Heon invites her to test that assumption. She attacks first. A water cannon. Joo-Heon immediately activates the code of Hammurabi. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and a water cannon for a water cannon. The relic sends her own attack right back. Now the entire cafe erupts into chaos. People start gathering. Police receive reports about an explosion. Someone even reports a naked woman attacking passersby near the building. By the time everything settles down, Joo-Heon has managed to pick up another relic from the confusion. Paris Montmartre Painter's ink. A B-rank rare consumable artifact. Unexpected, but useful. And right when Joo-Heon thinks the situation is over, he hears the crow again. It warns him that something nearby is dangerous. Joo-Heon's mood immediately turns sour. The crow keeps appearing, giving him orders, handing out strange rewards, and refusing to explain anything. It sent him 15 years into the past without telling him why. Now it expects him to follow instructions like an obedient servant. Joo-Heon has already spent one lifetime being someone's dog. He isn't interested in doing it again. He tells the crow exactly that. The relic responds with a warning. Joo-Heon will regret ignoring it. He almost laughs. Why should he trust anything a relic says? Then another voice interrupts him. A human voice. Someone who has finally decided to stop sending employees and come personally. Kwon Tae-jun. The chairman introduces himself to everyone nearby as though this is some ordinary business meeting. Joo-Heon's men immediately get nervous. This isn't some underling anymore. This is the real Kwon. Joo-Heon tells them to shut up, but something is already wrong. Pain suddenly hits him. Hard. Kwon looks at Joo-Heon and notices something else. He really did obtain the herb of eternal life. Kwon admits that Joo-Heon seems to have enough power to handle valuable relics. But he asks a much more important question. Does Joo-Heon really think his own strength will be enough? Because refusing TKBM has consequences. Kwon tells him he'll regret rejecting the contract. Joo-Heon doesn't back down. If Kwon wants to try something, he's welcome to. Still, Joo-Heon can't ignore the situation. The man who became the final boss of his first life has entered the picture much earlier than expected. That tells him something. TKBM doesn't have many people capable of dealing with him yet, and that gives Joo-Heon room to move. Kwon, however, seems equally confident. From his perspective, Joo-Heon is just another talented relic user who hasn't learned his place yet. Sooner or later, Kwon believes the board will flip in his favor. Joo-Heon is happy to test that theory. But before either man can push things any further, the timing changes. Something much bigger is approaching. The crow's warning wasn't about Kwon. The entire world is getting closer to the event Joo-Heon already knows is coming. The Great Entombment. And once that begins, relics will no longer be something hidden inside secret auctions and isolated tombs. The whole world is about to change.